Hello, everybody. Welcome to this week's episode of MGR Unplugged. We are again fully loaded. However, today we don't have a whole lot of time, so we're trying to keep this to about half an hour, 45 minutes if we can. We're so loaded both on the podcast and outside of it that we really need to reduce time for this. So David is with me. We have a few topics. We're going to start with probably after reviewing Quibi, which is the app that we discussed about. We talked about, I think, 2 weeks ago or so.
The wild success.
Yeah, hold on. Don't give us disclaimers yet.
Actually, it's been about a month now.
It's been a month, yeah. Okay, well, we'll discuss it. We have a lot of things, a little bit of economics update and some other market news as well as e-commerce news as always. So before we get to that, let's just get started.
None of you people can tell me to stop. Lower the lights down. Hand over my crown. Hand over my heart. I do this for my town. I do this for my crowd. So turn me up real loud. My time, my time. None of you people can tell me to stop.
All right, welcome back. So David, how are you today?
I'm good.
You're
How
good.
are you?
Okay, I'm fantastic. I was a little bummed out. I said last week I was going to be going to the Circuit of the Americas in Austin, Texas, and we're ready to go. I should be on the road actually today, Thursday, today, to be there all weekend. And unfortunately, Texas didn't let us go in. They canceled.
I didn't say it on the podcast last week, but I thought you were being a bit optimistic.
Well,
that
the
things
governor
would be
actually was okay. He opened everything, but the county where the track is, they said that they still didn't feel comfortable with racing events and all that stuff at the track. So they sent us a note on Monday
But
saying
racing is very essential. I thought
it's an essential business, but we have social distance unless we kind of hit each other.
Yeah.
So we keep our cars separated. We wear facial masks, suits, head socks, balaclavas, all kinds of stuff. So I don't know what the contact is or the virus. Plus, we travel very fast, which I don't think viruses travel very fast.
You outrun the virus.
I believe the virus. We're behind. I mean, that's not even a contest in any kind of race. I will beat the virus. Well, I mean, no question.
Okay.
Regardless of that,
let's move on.
Yeah, regardless of that, we're not going to Texas, but I will go into another track that is very good. It's local. It's in Tucson, actually, or off of Tucson. It's called Indy Motorsports. I'll be there tomorrow morning, actually. I'm leaving very early, 5 o'clock, and we'll be practicing all day. So I'm very excited about that, which means that I'm busy. I need to get working on my car. Which is the
very
stuff.
busy.
All right, on a more business news, David, I wanted to start with Quibi. Actually, it was funny because you listened to an interview with Jeffrey Katzenberg. I think it was with Jeffrey, right? With Katzenberg.
I didn't listen. I read an interview.
You read about it. Okay.
And
he was basically justifying.
Quick recap on Quibi. They launched. It was actually a little over a month ago, and quick bites, Quibi, 10-minute videos, blah, 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 blah. I think most people know what it is by now. It's been a complete failure. And so Jeffrey Katzenberg came out, and it was a New York Times interview, and he basically said, I'm not making this up. He said exactly this in the article. His quote was, "I blame everything on coronavirus. Everything." That's what he said. Okay, glad to see you're taking responsibility here, because coronavirus, coronavirus.
That and the users that didn't download the app.
We were saying back in January, December, before any coronavirus
we
stuff.
said it actually when they were doing the commercials for the Super Bowl. Remember?
But even before that.
I remember we were creating the graphics.
No,
for one of the highlights.
I know in February, but I mean even before that, because Quibi has been announced for like a year or more. And I remember I was like, I don't think this is a good idea. I think this is terrible execution here. And so I don't think coronavirus has anything to do with it. In fact, people are consuming more content than ever because they're bored at home.
If this is a good time to launch, it's basically coronavirus. Everybody's running out of Netflix.
His argument was, well, because our content was intended to be on the go. That's why it's like Quibi, like short videos. Mm-hmm. And I said, okay, maybe that's true, but people are still watching plenty of 5-minute YouTube videos. They're just not watching your shit because it's shit.
Yeah. Well, we did say that when and I have nothing against Quibi or Jeffrey Katzenberg.
I don't have anything against the people. I just think How many times have we seen a startup raise hundreds of millions, in their case, billions of dollars?
I know, and they have all these
with
celebrities.
no justification other than the fact that the two founders are basically famous business people.
Right.
But
right.
they launched this service focused at Gen Z and millennials. I don't even know, founded by two people, neither of whom are Gen Z and millennials. They are like super boomers. They're both old.
That's why I always say that past performance does not guarantee future results.
And especially not when you're doing something that neither of them have really done. I mean, she was the CEO of HP, which primarily is these days more focused enterprise.
And when she was
hardware.
CEO, it was more in the traditional HP computers, printers, and things like that. So
And then Katzenberg, he was the head of a studio, but that's very different from being the head of a studio is very different from launching from scratch a media company. There's a different skill set that comes into taking over something that already exists.
Yeah.
And running Disney Studios.
Well, it's like I said, every day is day one. You can't really rest on your laurels and just think that just because you did something great last time, every day.
Even the marketing, like their whole marketing campaign was, "I'll be there in a Quibi" or just a Quibi, and it's like
didn't work out.
They're trying to make Quibi a vocabulary, like people use that,
like a verb. Like I'm Googling this, or
It's terrible. I mean, the marketing should be, hey, we have great shows. These are the shows. And like I said before, if I were them, they're hiring all these old school celebrities, but they're targeting like Gen Z. It's like, you know what? I'm sorry, Reese Witherspoon is great, but Gen Z doesn't give a fuck about Reese Witherspoon. That's just the truth. They should have gone and gotten YouTubers and TikTokers and all these people and made content with them. That's what I would have done. But of course, they don't. The two founders are not Gen Z or millennial, but they're trying to target them. So, anyways, but it's coronavirus's fault. We take no responsibility.
Like many things. I think that's going to be the line for a lot of CEOs these days. So, speaking of, the graphic that we have there is actually looking at consumer spending. We already kind of.
By the way, is this accurate?
Because
it says restaurants and bars are only down 26%.
Well, that's for the previous.
March.
That's in March 2020.
Okay.
I mean, this is not still the last record, but this is from Yahoo Finance from today. So, but the bottom line is that we already talking last week about retailers that are going to fail, and some of them already filed for bankruptcy, as we know, J. Crew and Neiman Marcus, and now JCPenney and Nordstrom are kind of on the verge.
JCPenney.
I think they did already. They're asking for financing or something.
They haven't yet, but it's looking like they will.
And Nordstrom has already announced that if they don't get some kind of good financial help, they may have to do the same thing. So we know that. I mean, it's just the nature of the beast, and which reinforces more how important it is to have an online presence these days. I mean, even Amazon is running out of.
Can I ask you though? I mean, I think we discussed this a bit, but I just think there was too much. Like, is anybody really gonna miss J. Crew? I mean, when was the last time you went to a J. Crew?
Well, I'm not a J. Crew guy. I don't even know what they freaking sell. But I'm assuming there was an audience for them. They were fairly successful back in the days.
I know at one point they were much more.
It's like
popular.
everything. It's like the Gap. It's like
but
Old Navy. It's like all these stores, Banana Republic. I mean, you have a lot of stores that back in the days you go to a mall and you go to the J. Crew store, or you go to
no, I understand, but I just
to me,
is there anything special about J. Crew?
No, I mean, it's no different than Lauren Taylor, Neiman Marcus, having Macy's, Nordstrom, all the stores that are anchors that used to be like the anchor of a shopping mall that we discussed, and they are like, you have a shopping mall with like maybe a cross shape, and you have the 4 anchors, and then you have every other store out there. And even JCPenney stuff. I mean, those are stores that they had a lot of years of success, but it's just that they are like, they don't adapt, and it's the key.
They had success because they had valuable real estate, and there was no alternative.
Right.
Basically, all these retailers, like a Neiman Marcus, succeeded because if you wanted the types of higher-end clothing and bags and all types of stuff that they sell at Neiman Marcus, there's not that many sellers of it. Now you can get all that stuff online.
Exactly.
And it's like, so is anybody going to miss a Neiman Marcus?
But what
anybody
happened is
miss
that,
J. Crew?
I mean, we know this. I mean, when those stores did not worry about having an online presence because the whole marketing was based on driving people to the store, all the catalogs, the printed catalogs, they send it to your home, they have these coupons and all that stuff. You go there to feel and touch and buy and all that stuff. and they never made the leap to online until it's too late. And now this situation has actually made it even more of a pandemic for them, because it's like, okay, before we had at least the traditional shopper that says, okay, yeah, I get online on Amazons and all these sort of things, or even my own online presence like neimanmarcus.com or something, but I still have the people that look online, come to the store, buy at the store, so they justified it. Now there's no option for people to go to the store, so they're already buying online, and then once they buy online, they have tons of options because people are savvy. They can start shopping around and saying, oh, I can buy this cheaper, or I can price shop. And then Amazon is going to beat them to a punch. So it's just very difficult. That's where it shows there. I mean, if you look at the only stores that are doing well are basically grocery stores, because people still need to buy food. But gas stations, obviously, nobody's driving. They're down. Department stores are down. Sporting goods and hobbies are down. Restaurants are even, clothing stores specifically.
I think sporting good retailers are down, but online they're doing amazing. Because everybody's buying home gym.
Non-store online, yeah. But when you look at this, is basically consumer spending in general. So people are buying more essential stuff, So and on that end, I remember last week we kind of talked about restaurants for quite a bit, and now Starbucks actually, which is not quite a restaurant, but it's in the restaurant category. As much as they are not officially closed, I mean, yeah, they closed a bunch of stores. The ones that don't have a drive-through are basically closed.
No, but even a lot of the ones with drive-throughs are closed.
Yeah, they basically selected based on traffic areas, which ones to close. But the ones that stay open, they're pretty busy. I mean, obviously, it doesn't take much to have 3-4 cars lined up and look like they're busy. I mean, when you have a drive-through, it's not that you have 4 customers in line. You imagine those 4 customers in line at the store. That means 4 cars outside. And when you have 5 or 6 customers online, that's 6-7 cars, and that looks, oh my God, these guys are busy. And they are busy with the drive-through, but they have only one person giving you the drinks, and they have all the team making the drinks. The bottom line is that they're also they've lost about close to $1 billion in the last quarter, or basically since the pandemic.
They lost, or they
in revenue?
Okay.
No, they didn't lose. They lost revenue that they normally compare year over year.
Right.
So they're also in a situation where they are actually asking the landlords of the space that they rent or lease for more lenient terms. I mean, they're not saying we're not paying or anything. They've been paying all the way.
Yeah, I mean, I think Starbucks just basically will be fine.
Yeah,
obviously it's gonna hurt like everything, like everybody, but
right.
they're not going anywhere.
They're not going anywhere, and they will reopen as soon as everything starts reopening and having all the social distancing and all the protocols and everything in place. But they're already asking their landlords to be a little more lenient with their terms over the next 12 months, to giving a little more of a breather as far as how they pay and all that, which is normal, but it tells you that nobody's safe. I mean, everybody needs to plan. And that's a store that actually, or a company that has done fairly well as far as keeping up with the fluctuations of this pandemic and the rules and the lockdowns and the different states and counties doing this. So, moving on, there was something about Facebook that you were telling me about in terms of being required to pay affiliate or advertising revenues to media companies, and I'd never even heard about that. And you said that happened.
Well, okay, so Facebook. Well, there's different things. So Facebook, it kind of all stems back to years ago. If you remember it happened with the Facebook views scandal. Remember that?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
They were inflating the views. And so what they started doing, this is years ago, they started partnering with media companies and doing revenue share agreements with like all types of media companies. But the media companies are basically saying, well, the money we get is not enough. It's very little. And that Facebook just keeps most of it. And that Facebook should have to pay a significant amount of the ad revenue that they generate to, in this case, it was the New York Times that was saying this, that hey, us New York Times should get a significant amount of the ad revenue because we are generating content for Facebook. Facebook doesn't generate any content. And in Australia, they passed a law that basically put into place that now Facebook and Google and other aggregators are required to pay certain cuts of the advertising revenue they generate to these media companies. I think is ridiculous. I think the New York Times, another company that was complaining about this was BuzzFeed saying, "Oh, we don't get enough revenue. Oh, we had to make layoffs, and Facebook has been totally fine and making more money with advertising."
Let me clarify this for everybody and for myself first. So Facebook, let's say that any user, because it's basically Facebook is user-generated content.
Right.
Any user,
Facebook doesn't make content.
right?
It's
So
all
any
users.
any Facebook user decides to post a link to an article from the New York Times and says, "Hey, I can't believe I read this," or something to his friends, his
So
newsfeed,
in the same
or
way
whatever.
that YouTube has AdSense, and if you upload a YouTube video, you basically get 45% of the ad revenue that your video generates.
Yeah, but that's for the user. If I have an AdSense account,
Right. So if you upload on YouTube, right, YouTubers, how it works, they upload their videos, and then all those ads that you see pre-roll, mid-roll, whatever, right, that's basically split. If Google or YouTube takes 55%, and the other 45% goes to the YouTuber, the uploader,
Right,
basically.
right. The owner
And
of the
so
account.
now they're trying to do a very similar agreement to Facebook, but they not even just for videos, but for articles, for
but
everything.
who gets the money?
Well, Facebook obviously gets all the money because
But that's
when you run Facebook ads through Facebook's platform, and they're trying to basically say that New York Times generates a ton of content for Facebook, and that Facebook should pay them for that content. And that's what this law was putting in place. I don't know all of the minutiae of exactly how it works, but the idea is that Facebook generates tens. Do they generate hundreds? Definitely tens of billions in ads revenue, and that they need to start
they're the
giving
number two right now
large
after
chunks of that to media companies, and that it's Facebook's fault that media companies started failing, and that they need to pay the price. And I think it's just a bullshit excuse. If BuzzFeed is going to complain that the revenue share agreements that they have with Facebook aren't good enough, well, BuzzFeed, change your business model then.
well. I think that's very. I mean, I will never defend Facebook, but in this case, I think this whole ruling is kind of very hard to enforce.
And by the way,
implement.
they don't talk about the fact that tons of the traffic that
Right.
BuzzFeed and all these places get is from Facebook.
Exactly. That's
and
my
so
point.
if Facebook were just to say, which may very well happen in Australia, fuck it, we're not going to do this.
Right.
So you guys, we're just going to remove you from the platform. So no more BuzzFeed in Australia.
Right.
Well, guess what? BuzzFeed's going to lose a ton
Exactly.
of
That's what I'm saying.
traffic.
If I post an article to the New York Times or from the New York Times that is something interesting I want to share with my friends and family and followers on my own personal account, I'm driving freely a lot of traffic to New York Times.
Not even just users, just the companies themselves.
Right.
BuzzFeed puts all their articles on Facebook,
Right.
all their articles on Twitter,
Well,
all
then-
these platforms,
right.
their distribution
It's
platforms.
like Facebook is free. So Facebook will say, yeah, we're going to pay you that, but now because you're a company instead of an individual, we're going to charge you to be on our platform for free. I mean,
I just think it's excuse making.
Yeah,
I think that, hey, BuzzFeed, you want to make more money? How about you make better content?
I'd be interested to see how that happens in Australia, because usually when it happens in one country, then other countries start saying we're going to do the same.
Yeah,
And,
but Australia is always a country that does a lot of stupid stuff that they don't think through. They've done it many times. They did it recently with a copyright law that was absolutely ridiculous. And even Europe, Europe is very pro-regulation.
European Union, yeah.
I heard European officials saying, yeah, that law is fucking crazy, Australia. I don't know what they're thinking. So I would take Australia's laws with a grain of salt, because they love to just throw regulations at everything. But I think New York Times, BuzzFeed, all these places that are complaining, it's like, change your business model. And New York Times has, by the way, okay? I mean, they charge for their articles much more. They put paywalls on everything now. They have very few free articles these days, and they make a lot of money from subscriptions. So New York Times is one of the few that has actually been able to adapt and become very profitable in the new internet age. But this idea that it was Facebook that brought them down is ridiculous. It's like, no, you guys didn't adapt with the times, whether it was Facebook or whether it was Google or some other internet company or bloggers or Twitter, independent journalists.
Yeah, that's just
It's that you guys didn't adapt. That's why.
Yeah, I mean,
failed.
Facebook gives you a platform to basically publish anything you want. And now you're going to ask him, oh, thank you for the platform, but now we want to also be paid for the free space you're giving us. I mean, that just doesn't square.
The truth is, because they already did this with Google News previously.
Right.
Where Google News had to, I forget the exact stipulations, but Google News had to start... they wanted Google to do some very specific thing that Google said they weren't going to do. And so Google ended up removing a bunch of publications from Google News, and their traffic dropped out of the fucking
Right,
stratosphere.
and Apple News has the
and
same
they wanted
thing.
them to reverse it.
Apple, when you go to your iPhone, to your news, they curate.
Well, Apple
from
News
different
is a bit
sources, so it's a different model, obviously. But
Apple does actually what they want
Right.
Facebook to do. Apple splits revenue 50-50 with the publishers.
Right.
But a lot of publishers are not on Apple News
Right.
because they don't generate enough in subscription revenue.
Right, but they also, when I go to Apple News and I see an article for the New York Times, I have maybe 2-3 articles a month or something like that to see.
Right.
The rest of
Right,
them I
because
need
New
to be
York
a
Times-
subscriber. So they're just driving traffic.
Right.
And then you decide whether you want to subscribe or not, because whether you come from Apple or any other source or Facebook, the New York Times has a limited number of articles per month that you can watch or you can read, and then they ask you to subscribe, which is, like we said, is free traffic for them that otherwise they wouldn't get. So, which in
I just
turn
think that
allows them
there's-
to get more advertisers and more click-throughs and everything else.
I just think that there's so many, whether it's Katzenberg with Quibi
Yeah.
or New York Times or BuzzFeed.
Everybody's trying to,
everybody's blowing smoke.
Everybody's trying to find any creative ways to squeeze advertising or revenue from here
Nobody
and there.
wants to take responsibility
Yeah.
for their business failures and their lack of vision and lack of seeing that, things are changing and we need to adapt. And they make every excuse in the book. They want to lobby. They want to regulate. It's no different than oil companies doing the same thing, trying to stop electric cars from happening. These media
Who
companies are
killed the
doing the
electric car?
same
Remember that?
thing. Yes, they're doing the same thing.
Speaking of adapting, we watched a movie 2 weeks ago, I think, that was straight to streaming release or something.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. We want to talk about
It
that.
was what was the movie that we watched? It was
Invisible Man.
Invisible Man. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a good movie, by the way. But this is one of the movies that they were trying to, obviously, with the movie theaters being shut down now and nobody can go to a movie, so who knows when we're going to be able to go to a movie theaters, with which conditions and all that. They released the movie directly to streaming platforms, and obviously they were costing, I think it was like close to $20, like $19.95 or something. Instead of the normal rental that you wait like 3 months, 4 months or something, and you rent for like $5.95 on Apple or Netflix, obviously is free, but they don't have the new releases, but or even Amazon Prime or something. With this one, you actually pay $20, but you can see the movie that is a theatrical release at the same time, in lieu of going to a theater, obviously. So whether that is beneficial for the studios or not, it's kind of too soon to tell, because obviously
It looks like it is.
well, I mean, there's two things there. Yeah, you pay $20. If you go to the movies, you're going to spend easily $25-$30 just for two, between the tickets and maybe popcorn or drink or something.
Yeah, but the movie doesn't get any money from that.
No, I understand. I'm just talking for the studio. So the studio now is getting the movie to the public, and then you have a family.
So the breakdown, typically when a studio, it depends on the movie, depends on the agreement. For bigger movies like a Star Wars, Disney will negotiate bigger cuts. But for your typical movie, the box office split is 50-50 between the theater and the studio. Mm-hmm. And so basically the whole thing happened because Trolls 2, which was a Universal movie, generated over $100 million in basically rentals. Because it wasn't in the box office.
Yeah.
But the difference is, instead of doing 50-50, they get 70%.
Right.
So the margin is much higher. Now, there's two questions. Number one, obviously everybody's in quarantine right now, so people are looking for content. So did that boost the numbers? I'm sure it did. And number two is what will happen later on with the rental market, in the rental time. Will people still rent?
Because when movies
this
are
again?
going to the theaters, you watch a movie in the theaters, and then 3 months later you have it available
But-
on other sources for rent. And now you already kind of rent it at a higher rate when it first is released, then obviously you lose that rental business down the road.
But we don't know that yet.
Well, we don't know. That's why I said it's too soon. I mean, they need to have like a 6-month span, and then you go into international distributions and sales and rentals and everything else. So it's kind of a little soon to tell what's going to happen with this new business model, but they're actually looking into it to keep it. And
That's basically the whole thing that happened, was that Universal said, this is working really well. They released Invisible Man and they released Trolls 2.
Right.
And both those movies did really, really well. And actually they said we probably, in some cases they were saying that the at-home streaming projections revenue was
like
higher than the box office projected revenue.
Right. It's
And
like
so-
a pay-per-view option where you say, okay, I'm going to pay higher dollars, but I see it right now in my house.
Right. But not even higher dollars, because I mean $20 is not that
Well,
much.
higher than the normal rental. You could rent a
Yeah,
movie.
of course, but you also have to wait 6
Sure,
months.
exactly. So I mean, normally instead of waiting 3 months or whatever is the release window to rent it and rent it for like
Right, so
$5.95, you can watch it.
So Universal basically said, in the future, even when theaters open up again, we're going to probably do a model of releasing at home and in theaters. And they said this without any deliberation with any of their movie theater partners. And so AMC got very upset and said, "What the hell?" And AMC immediately announced that, okay, well, we're not going to show any Universal movies anymore. We're done. We're cutting all ties with Universal. And then Harkins and Regal and all these other theaters basically followed suit because they said, okay, well, we're going to stick together. And so all the major movie theater chains said, okay, we're not going to show any Universal movies, which obviously, Universal is the second largest studio in the world.
Yeah, that's why I was surprised about that because I don't know how much leverage really
They don't.
the
They don't
movie
have
theaters
leverage
will have in this negotiation.
Because guess what's also going to happen that hasn't happened yet is Disney is going to start releasing movies straight to Disney
Right.
Plus for a premium. So if you have a Disney Plus subscription, you can pay whatever $15 and go watch this movie. It's gonna happen.
Well, no, I understand,
And
but
so what? They're gonna now ban Disney, which owns Fox, and so now you're gonna have Disney, Fox, Universal. What movies do you have? Because that's basically they
well,
make
that's
all
the
the
thing. But
movies.
not only that, I mean, people go to movies because they want. They don't go to AMC theaters because they say, "Oh, we're going to AMC theaters." They go
Right.
because they want to see a particular movie.
Right.
And if that movie is not played at AMC theaters and it's at Harkins, they'll go to Harkins. And if it's not in Harkins and it's an independent movie that is an independent movie theater or something, they'll go to that independent movie theater. Consumers dictate where people go. So if I want to watch a movie and it's not in the theaters because AMC or Harkins and everybody's boycotting Universal and I still want to watch a movie and I have it on streaming on Apple Movies or Apple whatever for $20, I was like, should I just watch it on TV? What's the difference? I mean, to me, that boycotting thing is like it has no leverage. I mean, when you boycott something, it's because you want to pull some leverage and force an issue
Their hope of leverage is that
people will demand to go to that.
That basically a lot of people. This is the thing. I think consumer habits have changed because before it used to be, 20 years ago, 15 years ago, that a lot of people would just say, "Hey, let's go see a movie," and then what's showing now, and then
Right.
go pick a movie. That still happens, but
Yeah.
much more it's, "Oh, hey, I want to see this movie.
Right.
Let's go to the theater." But
Right.
it's not the other way around. And so the leverage is that they're thinking, okay, well, all the people who say, "Hey, let's go see a movie," well, now Universal movies are not an option.
Right.
I think that leverage is gone.
Even the movie theaters are promoting all these loyalty forms and movie tickets online and buy these tickets online, all that stuff. And most of the times, people even book or buy their tickets before going to the theater. They know what movie they want to watch. They see all the
Right.
showtimes, buy the
That's
ticket.
what I'm saying.
Right.
I'm saying that before it used to be, "Hey, let's go. It's a Saturday night. Let's go see a movie."
Right.
And then we'll decide what movie we watch.
Yeah.
Now, I don't think. I'm not saying that doesn't happen, but it's much more, "Hey, I want to go see this movie, this
Right.
particular movie that's out in theaters right now." And the other thing with the movie theater business that they're just kind of a lost cause is that I was curious because movie theaters obviously are massive. They take up a ton of space, a ton of square footage. And so I was doing my own kind of research because I was curious of what is the revenue per square foot of movie theaters. And it was
Oh, yeah. I remember that.
shockingly low. We're talking $40 to $60 in revenue per year per square foot. Compare that to a normal successful retailer. I mean, I'm not going to look at when I was looking at the highest in last year. I quizzed you. Do you remember which one was number one last year?
I think I say
It
Lululemon.
was a Lululemon, 1,300 something per square foot.
I know, yeah.
Tiffany & Co. was up there, Apple, those are big ones. But a normal retail store, obviously, listen, it very much depends on location.
Right.
Is it in a mall, not in a mall, things like that. But moderately successful retail store will do, hundreds of dollars per square foot in revenue per year, somewhere between maybe 500 to 800 is a pretty
I remember
normal
this
range.
is just gross revenue. We're not
Right, this is revenue.
We're not adding the expenses
so-
to pay people or maintenance or anything.
Right. Well, revenue per square foot is how you kind of measure the success.
No,
of
I
a
understand.
store.
I just trying to
And
clarify
so-
that is
To compare, so people understand, a normal $400 to $800 is a pretty standard range for most retail stores. Obviously, like I said, it depends on location. There's a lot of variables, but that's pretty average across the country, especially in like malls and suburbs and all that.
Right.
Movie theaters are 40 to 60. So they're about that 10% of the revenue of your normal store.
Right.
And that's just because, think about it. Okay, well, half the time the theaters are pretty empty. They have tons of square footage that's needed for all these mega theaters. They rarely sell out other than opening weekends for big major movies. During weekdays, it's pretty empty too. I mean, they just have a huge amount of space, but they can't just jack up the price of movie tickets much higher because people won't pay them.
Well, and as we know, their business model is based on mostly concessions. I mean, they don't make so
all
much.
Concessions.
Right. It's not. They don't make the money on projecting this movie or anything. They make money when people buy.
The thing is that when people complain about the price of the concessions, and that's fair, right? Oh, $5 for popcorn, $4 for a water. Yeah, they have huge margin on that. But really, you're just compensating for the fact that the movie tickets are so cheap.
Right.
Because to make it economical, they would need to make movie tickets $50 a pop.
And you remember back in the days, you were able to, people started realizing, okay, a Coke there is like $5. I can buy my own kind of Coke for 50 cents, and so people used to bring their own outside drinks and food, and then they started clamping down on that and saying, oh, sorry, no outside drinks, no outside that, no coffee, nothing.
So the crux of it all is just movie theater business, by its very nature of the fact that it needs a ton of real estate. It needs a ton of square footage to make it work because it's theaters. And it is hard to generate enough revenue per square foot to make it economically viable.
The interesting thing is that over the past few years, all movie theaters have been reinventing themselves, the major ones at least, into making more of a pleasant experience, almost the opposite of the airlines. They've expanded the seats, they made it reclinable, you have your armrest, you have a more of a, like you're at home in your reclining chair watching a movie, and then you can even, some of them order some food that is more of a real food and all that. Try to make it like a...
None of that is going to solve the problem.
No, exactly. It's not going to solve that problem. But my point is that they invested so much into kind of reinventing the movie-going experience. And now this coronavirus pandemic and side effects or lasting effects with social distancing and rules and face masks and all that stuff are going to say, I'm not going to go to a movie theater and be, first of all, they're even going to lose more money. They need to leave like 1 or 2 spaces in between seats for people, which is what they're up to. Right, exactly. Well, but that's basically the conditions. Then concessions are going to have to be very, very limited. And then when you go to a movie theater, you go outside, you're going to have to wear a mask. And who wants to be in a movie theater for 2 hours and wearing a mask, watching a movie?
Mean, let's put it very simply. Last year, no coronavirus, nothing, was the best year in a decade for movie theaters. Movie theaters did really well. There were a lot of big movies that came out last year. You had a Star Wars movie, you had Avengers, you had a lot of smaller movies like Parasite and lots of good movies that came out. It was just a good movie year. So movie theaters had their best year in a decade last year, okay? AMC still lost money. They operated at a loss last year in their best year in a decade. Oh, and they have a ridiculous amount of debt. It's just, they're just not going to survive, honestly. I mean, the way I was thinking about how theaters could survive, because I like movie theaters. I like going to the movies. I'm a film buff, but I have to take my film butt hat off and put my...
You can still watch movies.
My business hat on. I know, but there's movies that you want to see in a theater.
I know. Especially if you are lucky or wealthy enough to have like a movie theater at home type thing with huge screens and all that.
But that's maybe
that's more, but most people are just basically have a normal TV and they watch movies, or maybe they don't even have Netflix and things like that. So
I just think movie theaters need to be completely reimagined. I think having these like AMC 24s and like with 24th, I just think that's way too many theaters. And I know that they do that because they want to split up so that they can have a ton of showings at any given time and a ton of different times so that people can come
optional
there.
Yeah,
but I just think the theaters are way too big. I think the theaters should be like 2, 3, 4 theaters most, and that's it. And not mega theaters, just normal size theaters.
Yeah, I think movie theaters and as we said last week, even worse than restaurants and things like that, because restaurants, we were talking about, you can have food to go, curbside pickup, limited space, whatever. We went through that last week. But movie theaters is like you don't have a movie to go. Movie to go is basically what people have already with the Netflixes and all that stuff, or downloading a movie, or renting a movie, or paying more for a movie that is straight onto streaming. So, they're gonna have to reinvent themselves. Now, moving on to another venue-based business or businesses that are also trying to find ways to reopen are all these sporting events. Last weekend we had the first live event that I can think of over the last 2 months or so, or basically since everything was canceled, was the UFC fight, which happened. It was supposed to be in California. Then I think it happened in Florida. It was on Fox, and there was no audience. And then all the people that were television, broadcasters, hosts, guests, fighters, trainers, everybody was tested multiple times. It was totally, all the UFC protocols and everything else, and it went fine, at least for now. But it was refreshing. I think it was good to see that one of the sporting events at least decided to basically have some live TV. It was interesting. I don't think it was that bad, to be honest. I mean, I watched a little bit.
I didn't watch it.
But it's one of those, like, when you it felt a little bit like the Olympics sometimes, or like when you watch a fight and there's not a whole lot of people. Let's say that you have two fighters there from two countries that nobody knows and nobody cares, and they have this kind of boxing ring, but there's not a lot of people other than the first two rows with a journalist and the photographers and all that stuff, and you can hear the boxers and you can hear the trainers screaming and talking and all that stuff. So that's kind of the feeling that I had.
But you also lose a lot too without the crowd.
Right.
Because one of the big things in fighting is like the entrances.
Well, in every sporting event.
And the
presentation, the introductions.
The roar when someone gets a clean hit.
Yeah.
So you miss a lot of that.
Of course. Yeah, of course
I think different sports are going to be differently affected.
But if you're so romantic about this old style, you're going to be missing
Obviously,
all
everybody
that.
has to make compromises.
Right. So my point is that in the next few weeks and months, more sports are coming to the realization that they're going to have to do something if they want to continue. And even the NBA, that you are a bit buff of that, they said, oh, no, we will not play without spectators. It's just not possible. And now they're starting to say, well,
I don't think they ever said that. The NBA?
Yeah, they did. I mean, some of the players and some of the...
the NBA? The NBA never said that. They said they were going to actually... Before they canceled the season, they were going to start playing without spectators, and then they just closed the season altogether.
Well, no, you have players like even LeBron saying, I don't see myself playing without spectators. They're a critical part, blah, blah, all that stuff. So that was in the beginning when it was like...
That was in February.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, of course.
Nobody's saying that now.
Well, obviously, that's the point I'm trying to make. When people thought, oh, well, we can be off for 2 months and then come back to play. Now is whether you play without spectators or you don't play at all, then obviously everybody's changing their tune. That's what is happening. Same thing happened with NASCAR, which now is planning back. They say, okay, we're going to have a racetrack with no spectators, then what's the purpose of NASCAR? We like the people there. Otherwise, like a winter testing where nobody shows up, So now what I was trying to say is that most of the sports, or if not all the sports, are saying, yeah, we'll play without people. Soccer in Europe, the same thing. The German league was about to start if you weren't, because one of the teams now had a lot of cases, and then they kind of pushed it back. But UFC started last week. NASCAR and Golf are basically planning on starting soon, and then the NBA is now having more specific talks about resuming the season. And the same thing with the NFL so far. Obviously, that doesn't start until September, October, so they're still planning on their normal season. And then MLB, the same thing, they have a plan and all that. So there's a very... and there's sports like tennis. I mean, tennis has been like... Tennis without spectators is going to be incredible, because you kind of go like... There's this echo and all that stuff. I mean...
They're always quiet anyways. Like golf, golf definitely doesn't need spectators.
But it's one thing to be quiet, another thing is to be empty. When you are in an empty stadium...
Well, they probably wouldn't be playing in Arthur Ashe. They should just be playing on a normal tennis court.
Yeah, but because the echo and everything... I mean, these guys... complain even when they hear the ball. They hear how the impact goes and all that stuff. Okay. I mean, the bottom line is that Roland Garros, the French Open, is supposed to happen in September. I think it's right after the U.S. Open, which is in New York, is supposed to happen in the beginning of September. I don't know if that's going to happen now or not. No question, no word on that. Wimbledon was already canceled. And then you have other events like, racing events that are, Formula One is supposed to start in July, and they're going to Austria, and they're going to have no spectators, private track. It feels like
racing is one where, like, I never even noticed the fans in F1, honestly.
Well, you're...
Because the cars are much louder.
Have you ever seen Monza or anything? The podium ceremony.
Yeah, but when they're racing though, the actual race.
You see, what the drivers will tell you, they can even hear the roar of the spectators when they make passes and all that stuff. I mean, you're not a big race fan, but if you go,
yeah, but I've watched a lot of F1 and I never pay attention to the fans. It's of all the sports, it's definitely one where the fans are the least important.
I don't know why you say that, but you've been to F1 races in Montreal and all that stuff, and you see how people are like fanatics there. I mean,
I'm not saying people aren't fanatics, but I'm saying the crowd as an experience, as compared to like a basketball game, is way different.
Well, it's different because you
barely even hear the crowd, and most of the time when they're racing through the course, there's nobody watching. It's only when they get to like the main straights and stuff that there's stands.
What are you talking about? They're sold out in F1.
I'm saying when you have a course that's miles long,
but
there's not stands surrounding the whole thing.
No, you have stands, whatever they're allowed to be having the stands for security or safety reasons, but they are packed. I mean, they have like 250,000 people.
I'm not saying they're not packed, but I'm saying as when you're watching it on TV, the fans are a very tiny part of the experience.
I think you're kind of underestimating the importance of, you only see the event maybe and you say, okay, well, I'm watching on TV and then I see the fans on the stands.
Right,
but
when you're watching on TV, we're talking about the watching experience. That's what we're talking about.
But it's
versus a sport, because you don't really hear the fans that much when you're watching it on TV. Do you hear them cheering very much?
Yeah, you can see it's not. Well, there's two things that we need to separate. One is when you're watching TV. Another thing is when you are, when you watch TV, you hear the fans. I mean, it depends on, it's a loud sport to begin with.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
So that's one thing. That doesn't mean that the fans don't affect the sport. The athletes themselves are the drivers.
I'm not saying there's no effect, but I'm saying of all the sports, that's the one where I think they should. It was the
so when you have NASCAR
fans.
or Richmond or any of these tracks that are like totally packed with
NASCAR's
everybody.
a bit different, but even NASCAR, the cars are so loud.
So will you have a Daytona 500?
Sure.
With no spectators.
Sure, they do the Daytona 24 hours and there's nobody there.
No, that's different. 24 hours is an endurance race, so you don't.
I know, but it's the same track.
And yes, but it's different racing. I'm talking NASCAR. 24 hours is not NASCAR.
Yeah, I mean, you can do it without fans.
Okay, so you'll do Daytona 24 hours without fans.
Yeah.
You know how weird would that be?
Everything's gonna be weird.
I know. Well,
the cars, when you're watching on TV,
it's like if I say.
What I'm saying is, when you're watching on TV, the cars are so loud, you don't hear the fans.
No, it doesn't matter how. I mean, it doesn't matter. I mean, it's like, okay, well, then you can have football without fans.
No,
or college football without fans.
The football players don't make engine noises when they run.
Okay, well,
that'd be a little weird.
Yeah.
But my point is, in racing, you don't really hear the fans very much compared to most other sports.
But it's not about hearing the fans; it's just seeing the fans. Even for the viewer, if you're watching any sporting event, you're watching golf,
of course,
it's the final of the Masters.
What? Don't cut to fans.
Okay,
they have lots of shots in these things where they cut to fans. Don't cut to.
Yes.
You don't do
okay.
that
Well,
now.
that's what
we
we do.
Cut to empty stands.
No, that's what we do with the Phoenix Suns. That they have zero fans lately.
Yeah, but I'm saying.
And they have the shots so tight that they want to show you the stands when the stands are half empty.
Right, but I'm saying you can play. Like, okay, obviously it's going to be different, but of all the sports, I'm saying that racing, I think, is one where the fans are the least a part of the viewing.
I think you don't understand. I think I understand racing sports, or racing and fans in sports. I think just because you don't hear the fans on TV because they over crank the volume of the engines versus the spectators. I mean, when you see in F1 an Italian driver or a Ferrari passing a McLaren or another car, I mean, you hear the fans roaring over everything, and they show you all the Ferrari fans and the Ferrari flags and the super red. You see the podium ceremony at Monza? I'm going to pull it up here. It's like the president of fucking Russia is talking.
I'm not saying that fans don't impact. That's not what I'm saying. Well, I'm saying that of all the sports, racing is where fans are like an afterthought versus other sports.
No,
where
that's
fans
for you because you're not a racer, but they are actually important. But anyways, let's just move on from that. What I'm saying is that all the sports are now trying to come back. So you being a basketball fan, how you feel about basketball coming, the playoffs? Okay, we're watching now the Michael Jordan documentary and all that stuff.
Weird.
Okay, so how you feel about having the playoffs now, where you have the final? Let's say that is the Lakers and LeBron and all the stars against the Bucks, and you have 0 people on the
I
stands.
still think they should do it.
Right.
Yeah, it'll be weird. It won't be as exciting, but they should still do it.
Of course, yeah. I mean, I think they should still do it, but how do you think that will affect the sport, or moving forward, how these limitations?
Well, they're already talking about next season.
Right.
Playing the whole season with
I know.
no fans.
That's the thing.
So
that's what I'm saying, that a lot of people, that was
it'll
my
be
point.
weird. Yeah, of course. But, it's like anything. You kind of get used to it, Like, I think it'll be similar to, I'm a fanatic, so I watch, like, Summer League games. And in Summer League games, a lot of times the stands are pretty empty. There's not a lot of people there. It depends on the game. So you just hear more of the players kind of talking and their shoes squeaking on the floor and all that. So yeah, it'll be weird. Obviously, it's not. No sport is going to be the same when you take out the fans. Obviously,
but my point is, how do you think the sports will survive?
I mean, in the NBA's case, I mean, they make a ton of money from TV revenue.
Yes, they make a ton of money from TV revenue, but they also make a ton of money from ticket sales and merchandise sales and all that stuff.
But it's better.
Do you think they can survive a whole season?
NBA said that it's 60-40. 60% is TV revenue. And so, yes, they're going to be down 40, but it's better than being down 100%. So they're still going to do it.
And the team owners are going to be just happy. I mean, I don't know how the business model will change.
Well, the team owners get TV money.
Yes, I know, but
they also probably won't play in the mega stadiums if there's no fans. They'll just play on smaller courts.
Right. Yeah, understood. So the Suns are not going to play at ASU basketball stadium?
No, probably not there. Probably like practice courts.
Okay. So don't you think that's?
But I don't know yet.
Right. So I mean, my point is that same thing with.
I don't get your point. It was gonna be weird. Yeah, of course. But like,
no, I'm talking about the business side of sports. How is that going to affect the business? We're talking about movie theaters surviving or not.
Yeah, it's gonna.
I'm talking about how
the NBA will be fine. NBA is one of the wealthiest leagues. NFL will be.
Well,
fine.
they were based on the existing model, but when it comes to re-signing, I mean, do you know how players get paid? Based on league revenues.
No shit.
Okay.
I know. It's
all right. Understood.
But of course. Okay, so players are, instead of making $15 million a year, gonna make $10 a year. Okay, I'm sorry. That's life. They'll be fine. The NBA is gonna be fine. Will the MLS be fine? I don't know. They probably don't have that much money to begin with. The major leagues. What, you think NBA is going to go bankrupt? I mean, no.
I'm not saying they're going to go bankrupt, but I'm saying they're going to have to start redoing.
It's going to hurt their revenue. Yes,
their business
like any
models.
other business. Yes,
I don't care what business you are in, sports or no sports. You're used to making $100 million a year, and all of a sudden they say you're going to make only 50, but you need to run the same show with the same players, and you're paying them so much.
I mean,
and
the NBA players
and you have multi-year contracts where you're supposed to pay LeBron $50 million.
Yeah, but no.
Okay, the salary caps and all that stuff.
The CBA, the collective bargaining agreement is based on the revenue share, and they split the revenues. So if the revenue goes down, then the players get paid less too. It's not that the players keep their same contracts and the owners lose a bunch of money.
Well, the players already have contracts in place, so they're going to have to modify all those contracts.
They adjust them. They have clauses in place for this stuff.
No, they don't have clauses for pandemic.
Not for pandemic, but for revenue loss. Yes, they do.
Okay.
They do, of course. The NBA can't assume that their revenue is going to go up forever. They obviously have it in place for revenue loss. They do.
I'm very curious to see how that's going to be solved, because a lot of players are already saying that they weren't taking this money, that it's going to ruin everything. And
no, the players are all saying, well, we want to play.
Of course, well, yeah, the bigger players want to play, and even I
mean, all the players. They don't want, because if they don't play, they don't get paid. It's like everybody else. They're like, no, we want our money, so we want to play. So
right.
That's simple. If you're an NBA player and you live this big lavish lifestyle and you're expecting that $10 million check to come in and all of a sudden it doesn't, and you have the option of, okay, play, no fans, but you get that $10 million check, they're going to do it.
Of course, the players want to, but the owners are more in saying, okay, well, I don't feel safe because if I don't play, I don't have to pay. Now, if I'm going to have to play...
No, the owners want to do it too. Yeah. They make money. Like I said, 60% of the money comes from TV contracts. So they still get all that money.
And that's assuming that TVs are still going to play those TV contracts, because TVs are not...
Yes.
Okay.
Especially if NBA comes back and there's no sports. Oh, are you kidding me?
Well,
Everybody
all
would
the
watch
sports
them.
will come back, but TV revenues and TV advertising revenues are down just as much as everything else.
But
because-
that's not the NBA's problem. They have contracts.
Oh, so those contracts stay, but the players' contracts don't stay. You think the TVs and the advertisers are saying?
No, the TV contracts. It's up to the media companies to get their
like
advertisers.
ESPN has laid off a bunch of people
Right,
because their
but it's-
advertising revenue went down. Because
Right,
they
but
didn't
it's
have
up
anything.
to them to bring in advertisers.
Same thing.
It's not the NBA's job to bring in advertisers.
Well, all I'm telling you is that I know, and you probably know it well, that all these TV contracts have clauses too, and they're basically saying, yeah, this is based on certain viewership on games, and right now we have no games, so the advertisers.
It's not based on viewership. It's based on games.
Yes, it's based on
So
games.
as long as they play those games,
Right, so you
whether
don't think-
a million or nobody watches.
So you're telling me that for this season, the advertising revenue, the television
Yeah, so
advertising
for
revenue.
this season,
Okay.
they're gonna get still paid. That's why the whole thing is
So this season, the whole advertising revenue from TV contracts is being paid in full, regardless of whether
the
the season
NBA?
is. Yes.
Yeah.
It's in full. You know that for a fact.
they just have to meet a certain requirement. Yes,
What is the requirement?
70 games.
Yeah, well, no, we're not there yet.
That's what they're gonna finish.
That's
the
what they
whole
want to
thing
f-
is. They're
right.
gonna finish the
So
season.
what if there is no season then?
If there's no season, then it's different.
Well, right now
But
we're
if-
not even close to 70 games.
No, we are.
No, we're not.
Yeah.
Well, how many games are left in the season?
Most teams only need to play like 3-4 games, and they'll hit 70.
There are 65 or so.
Yeah.
We stopped right after the All-Star break.
No, I mean it was March. Playoffs start in April. There's most teams have about 15 games left in their season.
15.
15 to 20.
Okay, well that's not 4 or 5. I thought you said.
No, I said to hit 70.
Okay.
They basically were going to bring back the regular season, play 4 or 5 games, and then be done.
Oh, so they're doing it just to fulfill the
Yeah,
agreement.
of
Oh,
course.
that makes a difference.
Yeah,
Okay.
of course.
Because if they don't,
before
that's
they-
the reason to come back. They wanted to basically
No,
make sure
they
that they
basically
get a TV
were going to
revenue.
go straight to the playoffs and not
Yes,
do regular
okay,
season.
now that makes sense,
And
because
they
they-
realized, oh, we need to hit 70 games. Most teams are
Right.
like 67 games in.
Okay.
So they're going to play like 3-4
Now
games.
I understand.
Yeah.
So they need to play 4 games just so they get the TV revenue.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
All right. So that's a little bit of a interested reason to come
Right.
back.
So
more than-
my point is the contract. So ESPN's contract with the NBA it's based on games played.
Right.
It has nothing to do with viewership. ESPN's job is to bring in the viewers, bring in the
No,
advertisers.
I understand that part.
So
but
next season, as long as the NBA plays their games, ESPN still has to pay in full. Now maybe it's kind of hurting ESPN, but they still have to pay in full. That's the contract. That's
well,
the thing.
I'm sure there's going to be clauses and lawyers working on those contracts to change it because they're
We'll
going to
see,
say.
but that's the contract. The contract is not.
Okay, I'm going to look into that because I'm very curious to
stipulated on-
see.
it's
That's
based
not what
on
I've heard.
games.
But if now this season, now they understand when they want to play 4 or 5 games just to fulfill the contract and be paid.
Right. And
no
then
matter
obviously
what.
they want to do the playoffs because the playoffs is a huge money maker. The
Right.
rights to the finals is a huge contract. And if they don't play the finals, they lose a bunch of money. So, yeah.
Okay, we'll see. All right, moving on.
By the way, speaking of sports, I mentioned to you before the podcast, I had you pull up a clip. Did you see Mike Tyson is coming back?
I know you mentioned that to me. I think we have he's coming back for charity
He's
or
like
something.
53.
Well, I know, but he's still a
Yeah, well, okay. So at first, my first reaction when I heard this was, he's like 53. What is he thinking? And then, if you're listening, just go to his Instagram. But look at this. Look at this.
Yeah, he's
He's a fucking killer still.
Well, I mean, he's always been like that,
Oh my-
explosive.
dude,
The thing with him now.
I give a lot of credit to the dude taking those punches. Oh my god.
Well, that's.
Can you imagine if Mike
I
misses?
told you I worked out next to him. Not that
Yeah,
I
you
was
did.
working out with him,
You
but I
did.
worked out next to him at a local gym when he was training in Arizona.
I don't think you ever told that story on the podcast. You
No,
should.
no. But I was and I was stretching. I was doing martial arts, and he was doing this, and he was doing exactly like that, and he was next to me on the treadmill, and I was doing his prime.
Imagine if he misses and clips your jaw or something. You're gonna be fucking going straight to the hospital.
Yeah.
for
Anyways,
him.
I think what he needs to work on is his endurance.
Yeah, of course.
His strength and everything is there, but he's not. He's a short dude. I mean, he's stocky but he's about 5'8", 5'9". I mean, he's not very big as far as height. But yeah, he works on his endurance. I mean, he's doing it for a charity, so I think it's good, and it's a good excuse for him to get in shape. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I can tell you how much money I've lost watching or paying pay-per-view with Mike Tyson. Oh,
See,
fuck,
here's
that
the
was-
thing.
that was- that's why-
I never lived to see Tyson, so
Oh,
I would love to see a Tyson.
I
knockout
saw.
live.
I was a big Tyson heavyweight champion fan, and I used to buy all those pay-per-views with Evander Holyfield, and
Wow. That's the other thing.
and then the guy will knock out all his opponents in the first minute and a half, the first round, second round, and it's like, what the f? I pay for all this, you know?
They were saying that they might have a rematch. Holyfield Tyson.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I haven't seen
If they have a
Holyfield.
Holyfield Tyson rematch,
I think Tyson
I-
needs to reconstruct his ear
yeah,
first.
well, I think that pay-per-view is gonna be massive. I mean, I don't care that they're old. I think everybody.
I don't think they should be pay-per-view. I think they should just do
Well,
like
it's for charity. That's the thing.
yeah, okay. If it's for charity, that's a different reason. But they should just say, hey, this is for the fans.
I'm buying that pay-per-view. I never got to see Tyson. I want to see Tyson fight.
I don't know
live.
how hard it will go.
If it's two
Holyfield.
professional boxers.
Holyfield was fucking cut. He was like the most
You think
ripped.
Holyfield doesn't still have some resentment for his ear? He's like, I want to fucking beat
He's
this
very
guy's
religious,
ass.
man. He
Yeah, I know. I think they're both reformed now.
Yeah, they both. I don't know. Anyways, so
I think that's it, right? Anything else?
no, I just kind of had a quick point. I was reading before about colleges and universities and all that stuff.
Oh, that's a
and
whole.
That's
Do you want to say that for next week? Because I could go for an hour on colleges.
All right, we can do that. I mean, the main thing is that, you know, California, it's all over the U.S. actually, but California has this unusual reopening rules and protocols that apply that the governor is applying, then the LA County has something else for beaches and all that stuff, and then Fauci also testified before the Senate, I think it was yesterday or 2 days ago, about his concerns about reopening the economy, coronavirus, and all the stuff, saying that it's not going to be a solved issue.
But the thing with Fauci is that he's supposed to say that. He's not the
I know.
business guy.
No, I understand. He's not a business guy. He's just infectious
I think I
disease
said this
expert.
last week.
He's overcautious.
Right. I think I said this last week. It's just at this point, you have to reopen things.
No,
Because
I know.
Things are going to get really bad.
Right.
And I don't think it's that. I think if everybody kind of makes the concession of saying, all right, we all just got to wear masks, and if we go to a place where we're going to be touching stuff, wear gloves, and have hand sanitizing stations in all the stores, if people just do that,
Well, yeah,
we will slow the spread so much. Now, of course, these guys are fucking morons when they're like, masks are tyrannical, blah. It's like, okay, dude.
Yeah, I know.
Like,
I know.
Come on.
But
the masks are as much for you as they are for other people. That's
right.
the
It's just a
thing.
little more of an education thing. But and at the end of the day, people will do whatever they
everybody has
want.
to wear a mask and wash their hands more frequently, but it means the economy reopens and everything's back in shape, isn't that a sacrifice everybody's willing to make?
You can make a lot of analogies, like everybody's speeding on the freeway, or there's one speeder and everybody's obeying the speed limits or whatever, But the main thing with the colleges, and we'll discuss that next week too, is that in California, basically, they decided to have the whole fall semester online, which is kind of a
So if you're a USC student paying 40, 50 grand in tuition, are you going to say, why am I paying that if I'm just at home?
Right, and paying for my Wi-Fi and being online, all that stuff, and using my own things. So, but it's true. It's a long topic, and I
So
actually
we'll
want
talk
to get
about
into
that
that
next week.
We'll definitely make a note for next week. I think that covers it for today. I'm not sure where we are on time, but I do need to get going too. So.
About an hour in. That's why I
Are
had
we?
to,
Okay, yeah, that's
cut it
fine.
off.
All right, so any other stuff? Any other things?
That's it.
Okay, well, that's good for me too. Thanks, David, again for joining me today. And for everybody else, we'll be here next week. I'll be at a track tomorrow. You can follow Instagram. Just check out a few shows that I will add. And other than that, have a safe and great weekend. Okay, bye-bye, everybody.